Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Sperry, and along with my co-chair, Laura Weese, I welcome you to our Horizon House Election Forum on the Office of King County Prosecuting Attorney. I want to welcome candidates Jim Ferrell and Leesa Manion for being with us tonight and to thank them for participating in our democratic process for choosing elected officials. The King County Prosecutor serves as the chief legal officer for county government and represents both the state and county in criminal matters. This large department contains 4 principal divisions: criminal, civil, family, and juvenile. The criminal division is responsible for prosecuting all felonies in King County and all misdemeanors in unincorporated areas of King County. The Civil Division serves as legal counsel to the Metropolitan King County Council, the county executive, and all county executive agencies, as well as the Superior and District Courts, the county assessor, independent boards and commissions, and some school districts. The Family Support Division is an integral part of the federal and state child support system. Its deputies established paternity for children born out of wedlock, ensure support obligations are enforced, and modify support amounts when necessary. The Juvenile Division works under the requirements of the Juvenile Justice Act to ensure that A, punishments are commensurate with age, crime, and criminal history of the juvenile offender. B, there is appropriate rehabilitation and reintegration of juvenile offenders into the community. And C, that the handling of juvenile offenders by the communities are consistent with community safety. The Office of Prosecutor is elective, nonpartisan, and is up for election every 4 years. The office is large with more than 400 employees, including 210 attorneys, and serves the county's population of more than 2.1 million people, including Seattle. Our moderator for tonight's forum is Ned Lang, a retired Seattle attorney and resident of our Horizon House community. Thank you, Ned. Take it away.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you to our candidates. Our format tonight will be that each candidate will give a 3-minute opening statement. We've asked them to use some of this time to tell us why they are a candidate, what their qualifications are, and what their goals and emphasis will be, and how they will accomplish them. After the opening statements, I will ask questions which have been submitted by members of the League of Women Voters and the residents of Horizon House. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. There will be no rebuttals since this is a forum, not a debate. The candidates may use closing statement time if they wish for rebuttal. Following the question and answer session, each candidate will have up to 3 minutes for a closing statement. Let us begin. The first opening statement will be by Leesa Manion. Leesa.
Thank you so much. The pandemic, police vacancies, and our housing and opioid crises have challenged the vitality and health of our King County communities and businesses. Making our community safer and protecting victims requires proven experience and hands-on leadership. I am uniquely qualified to help King County through these challenges. I am the only candidate that is a career prosecutor. I have dedicated 27 years of my career, my entire career, to public safety and the public service. I am the only candidate who has worked with 100% of the office, all 600 of our employees, all 4 of our divisions, both of our labor unions, and I manage an annual budget of $80 million. I have built and implemented effective crime prevention strategies, and I have a proven track record of delivering results. Here are a few recent examples of how I have delivered for public safety. I secured $2.3 million to prosecute sexually violent predators. I secured $14 million to reduce the court's backlog of charged felony cases. I have partnered with business leaders and city attorneys to prosecute and reduce organized retail theft and property crimes. I've added 10 new victim advocates. I've worked with community to reduce juvenile crime to all-time lows and formed a new hate crimes unit. I have accomplished a lot as the #2 in the office, and I still have important work to do. As your next prosecuting attorney, I will continue to lead on critical issues, and I will act with a sense of urgency that's been missing. I will bring accountability. I will prosecute and seek appropriate sentences for violent crimes, sexual assault, repeat property crimes. I will prosecute drug dealers. I will craft long-term solutions to address mental health and addiction issues, and I will build strong partnerships to improve public safety. I am proud to be endorsed by the family of former prosecutor Norm Mailing, who, like me, tried exactly one case in his career. No one, not even my opponent, would ever claim that Norm was unqualified to hold office. There was a time when my opponent and I both worked for Norm Mailing, and he chose me to be his deputy chief of staff because he believed in my leadership. I am more than qualified to lead this office, and I am proud to have the endorsement and supports of former Governor Gary Locke, Dow Constantine, Bruce Harrell, former U.S. attorneys Mike and John McKay, former police chief Jim Pugel, former Sheriff Sue Rohr, 28 state lawmakers, 11 labor organizations, in total 215 individuals and organizations who share my values of public safety and public service. As your next prosecuting attorney, I will lead with substance, not rhetoric, and I would be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, Lisa. Now, Jim Ferrell.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for inviting us. It's my honor to be here. Currently, I'm the mayor of Federal Way. I've been the mayor for 9 years. I'm in my 3rd term as the elected full-time mayor of Federal Way. Excuse me. We have over 600 employees at the city. I have a $100 million budget, 150 police officers. And I want to tell you that, I'm leading a coalition of mayors and elected officials from throughout King County, but I'm endorsed by 15 mayors throughout King County, and I'm very proud of that. Prior to, let me say also as mayor of Federal Way, we've been implementing strategies to try to make our city safer, whether it's hiring new officers or really working with each other and also bringing in extra patrols. Before I was mayor, I was actually a senior deputy King County Prosecutor. I served in the office for 16 years. I earned the rank of a senior in the office. I was president of the Deputy Prosecutors Guild on 2 separate occasions and was vice president prior to that. I've tried literally hundreds of cases. I've tried, I handled thousands of cases. I was the first ever leader of the Domestic Violence Core Unit. And I can tell you that I've got a tremendous amount of experience and managed a caseload of cases. So during that time, I was, in pretty much almost every unit in the office. But I can tell you that I bring I think what makes me uniquely qualified is not just the 16 years I was a county prosecutor, the 3 years I was a city prosecutor, the 19 years I've been in city government, the 9 years I've been mayor. I've got a tremendous reservoir of information to be able to draw from. I'm really proud of the endorsements from Congressman Adam Smith, Representative Amy Wallen, the police guilds of Seattle, King County, Bellevue, Kent, Federal Way, Des Moines, the Puget Sound Police Managers Association, and the local firefighting, local 2024, many numerous labor organizations, but really a nonpartisan, bipartisan coalition of folks that are concerned about public safety. I think we all share that concern about the direction that safety's been in and the direction that we're going. I've got a plan to address safety in our community. And once again, I'm honored to be here, and I look forward to a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Let us go to the questions and answers. I will read the questions and a screen. There will be a screen with a question upon it. Each will have a minute to respond. Our first question is, how do you view the responsibility of the prosecuting attorney to the community you will be serving? First, Jim Ferrell.
Well, thank you. I do believe that it's critically important for the prosecutor to work in partnership with the community. As I mentioned, I've got this really this great coalition of elected leaders and mayors from throughout King County, of law enforcement, community members, business, labor. Ultimately, I think the prosecutor needs to be very collaborative, to listen, to think about maybe who's not at the table. It's critically important that a prosecutor speaks for all of the citizens and all the residents to make sure their rights are protected. I also think it's really important to listen to feedback. I could tell you what really one of the things that got me into this race was really what being a former member of the office and a former deputy, I was really concerned about the fact that the prosecutor's office just wasn't taking our considerations as close to heart as I had really had hoped. And I think I'll be much more collaborative in coming up with common solutions.
Thank you. Leesa?
I believe it's the role of the prosecuting attorney to build a fair and transparent justice system that protects public safety, promotes racial equity, and provides opportunity and hope to all parts of King County. It's also really important for a prosecuting attorney to be able to build common ground and strong coalitions that get results. That means we both address incidents of crime and root causes. We prosecute the crimes that are wreaking havoc in our communities, but we also offer treatment for those who are suffering from mental health, behavioral health, and substance use disorder. It's a yes and approach. I am really proud of the relationships that I've built in my 27-year career. I'm really proud to have the experience and the endorsements of the organizations and leaders like Dow Constantine, 27 lawmakers, 6 mayors. I'm really proud to serve on the board of the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle and to have the endorsement of the Alliance for Gun Responsibility. I have the ability to bring people together to tackle the important safety issues that are facing our communities today.
Thank you. The second question, what would be the best measure of your success in serving the community? Leesa will be the first answer.
Sure, I think there are several measures. The first one would be, are we reducing crime in our community? I have a proven track record of doing this. Under my leadership, juvenile crime and police referrals have dropped by 90% because of proven and effective diversion programs. I'd like to make sure we have that same type of impact on the adult side of things. I also think we have to be honest about the fact that we have racial disparities in our criminal legal system, and I would want to make sure that we work actively to dismantle those. Under my leadership, we have a public-facing data dashboard that shows all of our racial components for referrals and filings. I also want to ensure that we are promoting a diverse workforce within the prosecuting attorney's office. Do we have attorneys of color? Do we have younger attorneys who are being promoted into leadership positions? Those are the types of measures that are important to me.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, I think that we can all agree that there's been a real tremendous increase in crime. In fact, actually, as a result of some of the reforms that were passed about a year and a half ago, there's been an 88% increase in car theft statewide. And that's just a real epidemic. And that was really caused by and exacerbated by the pursuit law that was passed by the legislature. We need to get back down there, get that law addressed, and make sure that we can get a hold of car thefts and eludes and situations that are not making the community safer. I also think that, we've got a real, if you take a look at the numbers in 21 and 20, a real escalation of violence in our region. And we need to get a hold of those numbers, make sure that we're holding offenders accountable, making sure that the jail is fully staffed. There are 100 officers down over at the King County Jail, which is creating this revolving door. So I think it's the real objective numbers of lessening quality of life crimes like burglary and car theft, but also violent crime.
Thank you. Our next question. What criteria will you use to determine whether to bring charges in a case that is referred by the police? First, Jim.
Well, we're really, prosecutors actually have a very special obligation under the court rules. Not only do you have to have probable cause, but you really need to make sure that you've got a good faith basis to bring the case and then you believe that you can prevail at trial. So obviously, probable cause is a threshold, but more than just that, do you believe that you should prevail, that you could prevail, whether you bring the case to trial? And really, out of the two candidates in the case, I'm the only one that's ever filed a criminal charge. I've filed and tried hundreds of them. Actually, I probably have tried thousands of them. So it's got to be based on the evidence, the objective evidence, making sure that you're taking all the factors into consideration. But you also need to make sure that you need to, make sure that there are good identification procedures and good procedures in place to make sure that we don't get tunnel visioned on any particular suspect, and make sure we go forward with our best available evidence.
Thank you. Leesa.
First and foremost, of course, we have to determine that we have the evidence to prove a case, to take to a jury and prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutors have an ethical obligation to have the evidence necessary to file charges. We can't simply file a charge and hope that the jury convicts. Second, I think we also have to look at the types of effective programs that we have in the criminal legal system that will get the behavior to stop. There are certain cases that are eligible for veterans court, mental health court, and drug court, and we should be really active about referring cases into those therapeutic alternatives so that the behavior stops and people get help to address root causes. And finally, there are certain nonviolent crimes that are appropriate for diversion that we can work in partnership with the community to address, so that the behavior stops, that we get upstream to the root causes of poor decision making, and particularly with youth, offering opportunities and new skills, and also new opportunities.
Thank you. Next question, number 4. Would you weigh a potential defendant's economic and social circumstances in making charging decisions? Leesa?
The prosecuting attorney has an obligation to look at the evidence that's presented in a case. I think that a person's economic and social determinants can point toward some root cause issues. We know that often people who are poor, who are suffering from mental illness and drug addiction, don't make as much money. I think those types of factors we can consider whether cases can be tried in veterans court, mental health court, or drug court, but it's not the type of factor that we consider in determining whether the elements of a crime are present.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I do think that we need to take in consideration, all of the factors that, an individual is facing. We obviously take a look at the evidence, and then, a lot of that, again, comes down to, are they eligible for a diversion program? And even once they're filed, how do you handle their cases? And you need to make sure that you're understanding, really get your arms around why this particular case occurred, why the offender, made that decision, that mistake, and get to root causes and help individuals. I want to be a prosecutor because it's not just about helping the victims and their families, but also about helping people that, find themselves in crisis. Most of the people who end up being charged with crimes and in jail, they themselves are in crisis. And so you have to consider all those factors. Several of those factors that are listed there are really about, more about how you would resolve the case as opposed to whether you would initially file it or not.
Thank you, Jim. Next question. Would you request the death penalty in an appropriate case? Jim?
Well, right now the governor has put a stay on that. So at this stage, that would not be the case. And we don't have a situation in which that would be the case. So there have been, say that was lifted, there have been circumstances in which, where there's been, heinous multiple homicide victims, whether it's multiple officers killed or multiple individuals killed. You have to consider that. But right now, the law and the status of the law would not allow for that.
Thank you. Leesa?
Yes, that is absolutely true. We effectively do not have the death penalty in Washington state. So I would not seek it in any case. Prosecutors have an ethical obligation to follow the laws that are on the books. We do have prosecutorial discretion, and I personally am not supportive of the death penalty.
Thank you. Next question. The community benefits when trials are held without delays. What can the prosecutor do to expedite trials and ensure that King County does not contribute to, quote, justice delayed is justice denied, close quote. Lisa?
Actually, this is something that I'm presently working on. I did secure $14 million to address the court's backlog of charged felony cases that developed during the pandemic when our prosecutors were hard at work filing 20 to 30 felony cases every day at a time when our courts were closed because of the pandemic. In general, I have a history of working with our public defenders and with our court to bring innovations to the courtroom to ensure that cases are resolved in a fair and timely manner that protects not just victims, but also the constitutional rights of the accused. The fair and impartial and timely resolution of cases is part of public safety. So I have learned from public defenders that our early plea unit, which offers a fair resolution to cases, that there is a timing glitch, that the timing doesn't work for the public defenders. So we are working to get to the understanding of that so that we can bring some change and resolve cases in a fast way.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Jim?
Well, I've been very concerned about the 5,000 case backlog at the King County Prosecutor's Office that, I really think that there needs to be much more of a discernible plan with a sense of urgency to address this and knock these down because justice delayed is justice denied. And I really think these cases do not get better with age. And frankly, they actually over time, is prejudicial to the defense. And so I think that we've got to find ways it's really a bandwidth issue to be able to push these cases through. I think you've got to go through a really aggressive triage. You've got to make sure you expand that bandwidth, through the use of pro tem judges, retired judges, whatever we need to do. There needs to be a decisive plan with a real intentionality to get these cases through the system as expeditiously as possible.
Thank you. Next question. How can the present plea bargain policy be improved? Jim?
Well, having worked in this environment for many years, I was a prosecutor for 16 years at King County, 3 years as a city prosecutor. You can't do the job as a prosecutor without plea bargaining. And really, plea bargaining is an opportunity to really present your best evidence to the defense and give an opportunity for reasonable compromise. I think that system works very well. And there is a very good early plea unit. I use to negotiate cases. The idea is to get those things to occur prior to the case being set for trial. I never actually, once even a case got set for trial, though, I was always trying to find if we could get a resolution short of trial. It saves a great deal of time and the chance for an appeal as well. So I think competent counsel on both sides can reach reasonable accommodations, and that I think a good job is done at this time.
Thank you. Lisa?
We have to work and be good partners with both courts and public defenders. I have been working with courts to have them consider innovations like dedicated plea courts. Also, I've been working with public defenders who up until recently had a hard time seeing their clients in the jail because of jail guard vacancies. We are very close to resolving those issues. Also, we have to make sure that we in the prosecuting attorney's office are making fair and reasonable offers. We also have to make sure that we deliver discovery on time, both to the charged person and also to their defense counsel. And when the defense bar gives us feedback, we have to take it into account. We have to listen, and we have to modify our practices so that we can work together to ensure that pleas go through, that they are fair, that they protect victims and the rights of the accused.
Thank you. Next question. There are some good reasons to employ alternatives to incarceration. Where would you draw the line between seeking serious jail time as opposed to some other form of penalty? First, Lisa.
For me, it's really important that we address violent crimes, sexual assault, gun crimes, of course, but there are a lot of cases that we can have a diversion response from community that is more swift, that offers more treatment, and more opportunities, especially to young people, that gets to the root causes. One of the things I learned from Nora Mailings is that if we wanted to have long-lasting impacts, we have to address root causes, which is why he went to Olympia, reduced prison time for certain drug cases, and reinvested that into treatment. It's why he formed our drug court. And I am a big proponent of the same type of therapeutic alternatives. I also believe that we have to offer treatment on demand in the community. Not everyone suffering from mental health or addiction issues has committed a crime, and they shouldn't have to come to the criminal justice system just to get the help that they need.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, crimes involving violence, guns, robberies, the crimes that really that tear at the very fabric of our community, they need to be dealt with in a manner that meets community expectations. And if somebody commits a violent crime, a sex offense, they need to be held accountable, and that means jail. And I do believe that treatment courts like drug court, mental health court, treatment courts like that are really the model for you to be able to help individuals out that have things that they're suffering with. There are, these programs though, and any kind of diversion program or treatment programs need to have the hallmarks of transparency and accountability. Now, I've been concerned about certain programs currently at the prosecutor's office. I don't need to get into the exact details, but when they're missing transparency and accountability, I think those become problematic.
Thank you. The next question. Do you support the concept of utilizing community courts for nonviolent offenses? Why or why not? First, Jim.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we need to make sure that we, provide, whatever form that takes, whether it's a treatment court, whether it's a diversion, we do want to make sure we include the community. We want to make sure that we give people, the ability to course correct meaningfully, whether it's juveniles or adults. But once again, I think it's critically important that you have the hallmarks of transparency, which means accountability, that they actually showed up, that there's a treatment program. And so, I do think that those are absolutely essential.
Thank you. Leesa?
Yes, I absolutely believe in the power of diversion because I have seen the statistics, and I have also heard from individuals who've gone through diversion programs who've shared with me how it has changed their life and the life of their family. As I mentioned, we have had mandatory juvenile diversion in King County since the Juvenile Justice Act was adopted. And we know that because of juvenile diversion programs, law enforcement referrals for juvenile crime have reduced by 90% over the past 20 years. And for violent crimes, that is 70%. And it's because we have partnered with community that provides immediate accountability, who work with young people to ensure that young people address the harms that they have caused, and who also offer opportunity and new ways of thinking for young people. We can have that same type of magic on the adult side of things, whether it's community court or a safe and proven effective diversion program.
Thank you. You anticipated our next question. How effective are the diversion programs? First, Leesa?
Well, as I mentioned, we know that juvenile diversion works because we've had a reduction of 90% of law enforcement referrals over the past 20 years. And each one of our large reductions has coincided with a new diversion program designed to get to root causes. We also know that there is less recidivism for therapeutic alternatives like drug court, mental health court, and veterans court. And we also know that the most recent version of juvenile diversion, restorative community pathways, has an 8% recidivism rate compared to a 22% recidivism rate for young people who are prosecuted in juvenile court and assigned a sentence at 12th and Alder. So the data alone suggests that diversion is extremely effective.
Thank you. Jim? Jim?
Well, I think it's far too early to figure out what, whether RCP is actually working. I can tell you that my concern with RCP has been that there's no case number, no judge, no discernible program, and no report back. And though that's the kind of thing that I said, earlier about the hallmarks of transparency and accountability that are just conspicuously missing. So that needs to be fixed. I could fix it, and there's certain crimes that should not be eligible for a program that has those as well. So this is public money. These are public cases. There needs to be much more transparency and accountability. And we need to probably dig into these numbers a little bit. I've been seeing the first numbers that I saw were a several month review to the King County Council after it had initially rolled out. So I think we need to get into the finer details there a bit and figure that out.
Thank you. Next question, number 11. Do you have any recommendations to improve the diversion programs? Starting with Jim.
I think Leesa and I are like one step ahead. So absolutely. I think really, and I understand that the current RCP is a pre-filing diversion program, but I don't think that's the way to go with regard to these felonies that includes, robbery, felony assault, residential burglary, commercial burglary. You need to make sure, number one, that the eligible offenses for this program meet community expectations. And none of the cities were really brought in to speed. And by, I'm talking about the cities, the numerous cities in King County that were not consulted about this. So I think you've got to have a case number, a judge, some sort of report back, and some sort of transparency process of was there compliance. And I think right now there really isn't that assurity.
Thank you. Leesa?
Well, as I've mentioned, we know that diversion programs work because the data, which we have on our website, shows that it does. Restorative Community Pathways not only meets our state's obligation for mandatory juvenile diversion for all first-time misdemeanors, it also handles some non-violent first-time felony matters. Restorative Community Pathways was approved by all 9 of our King County Council members. The King County Executive's Office has contracted with 9 public nonprofits, and those nonprofits participated in a very public RFP process, and there were community meetings that were held, and there are plenty of mayors who are not claiming ignorance about restorative community pathways. We know there is transparency and there's accountability. That's how we know that there is an 8% recidivism rate, because some youth come back to us. We have their names, and we also keep a 2-3 sentence summary of the facts of each case that is referred into restorative community pathways. That's transparency.
Thank you. The next question. How do victims receive justice if criminal activities are not prosecuted? First, Leesa.
I have formed a brand new and hired a brand new Director of Victim Services position, specifically to ensure that victims are served in our modern and thoughtful criminal legal system that addresses both crimes and root causes. And we have learned that many victims also want restorative and healing practices, and we have to respect that. We also have to dismantle language barriers. We have to also offer services with the use of technology to expand the reach of victim services. I'm really proud that I've added 10 new victim advocate positions within the office to ensure that more in our community are served, particularly in the areas of elder abuse, mental health abuse, also hate crimes. I formed a new hate crimes unit with a dedicated victim advocate. So there are lots of ways that we can serve victims, and it is also important that we prosecute violent crime, sexual assaults, gun crimes, and repeat property crimes. Absolutely.
Thank you. Jim.
Well, I think language matters. It's not the criminal legal system, it's the criminal justice system. And the people that are victimized by having a crime committed against them, they need to feel like there is justice, and justice needs to be delivered. So it's one of the real issues that I'm concerned about is a lack of justice for victims. And that means that not only does the individual need to be held accountable, but there needs to be restitution. There needs to be, really a feeling like people are not just getting away with crimes. I'll tell you what really upsets people out in the community, and I talk to people every day about this, is that people are walking out of the grocery stores with carts full of food, or they're able to steal a car and law enforcement's not able to chase them, and they don't feel like there's justice in the system. So we really do need a reset button and a recalibration about how we are approaching this. And we need to make sure that if somebody is the victim of a crime, that they are treated as such. And I think that begins with the language we use and calling it a justice system, not a legal system.
Thank you. Next question. What will deter an increase in crime if there are no legal consequences? Jim?
Well, this is why I'm running. I can tell you that there is a tremendous amount. I'm running for King County Prosecutor because I really believe the people in this region, in this area, law enforcement, municipal leaders are very concerned about the direction the public safety is headed. And there needs to be consequences for crimes. You cannot just have a revolving door. And you can't, I've got one of the slogans of my campaign is I believe in second chances, but not revolving doors where the same people are committing the same crimes. And so I do think that you need to make sure that there's accountability. I have concerns about the way the office has been run in regard to filing standards, in regard to, programs launched without any contact with and buy-off from cities. So I really do believe that we need to make sure there are consequences, because what will happen is people will push to the point of resistance. And if there is no resistance, if there is no accountability, this will continue to get worse.
Thank you. Leesa?
I absolutely believe in accountability for crime, and I will bring accountability. As I've said, I will prosecute violent crime, repeat property crimes, sexual assaults, gun crimes. Absolutely. We also know that the criminal justice system punishes individuals, and punishment, there is nothing wrong with that, but it is not the thing that deters crime. Research has shown that, because most people who are committing crimes do not believe that they are going to get caught, and they don't carry the sentencing guidelines around in their head and know what sentence that they are facing. We also know that if we address root causes, that if we give people the tools they need to change behavior, that will have the impact of reducing crime over time. So we can offer treatment, we can offer accountability, and we can address both incidents of crime and root causes. But absolutely, I believe in accountability. It looks different whether you have a root cause or whether you've been systematically preying on individuals and communities.
Thank you. Next question. What is the role of the civil division, and what would you do to improve performance? Leesa?
Well, actually, the role of the civil division is we serve as the private law firm, of course, for the King County Executive, the council, every single King County agency. And while the work and the attorney-client privilege belongs to the clients, it is true that our attorneys are promoting sustainability, environmental sustainability. They are moving the dial on important transportation issues. They are being advocates for environmental justice and cleanup issues. They also protect the county risk management pool. They defend the county when there are lawsuits where someone has been harmed or claiming harm because of county action. We also have the opportunity in those cases where we are at fault to own that and to do the right thing and to resolve those cases. So it's a very important part of the work, being the private law firm for a large county government.
Thank you. Jim?
Yes, it's very much like the attorney general role at the state level. You're representing all the agencies and all the different components, and making sure that we're doing our best to protect the interest of the county on behalf of the people, and making sure that you're advocating within the realm of professional within the professional realm, to make sure that whether it's a slip and fall, or whether it's a tort that you have to defend, or whether it's just making sure that government operates efficiently and wisely and within the bounds of the law. So yeah, it's very much like the civil litigation arm of the King County Prosecutor, of the King County government.
Thank you. Next question. Is the King County Prosecutor's Office sufficiently staffed to provide justice and other legal services? Jim?
Well, one of the, it's been a few years since I was in the office. I've been now mayor for the past 9 years. So I'll have to take a look at making sure that we've got enough trial attorneys. I think that one of the things we'll need to do is recalibrate exactly how we structure certain things. Clearly the idea is to make sure you don't have a backlog and make sure that the cases are filed and they're handled in an expeditious manner. So I'll have to take a look at where we're at there. And I think it is important to advocate to the King County Council and the executive to make sure that there is adequate funding to make sure that we are staffed with the attorneys and support staff to be able to accomplish the critical mission.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes, I'm really proud that I've secured $14 million in COVID relief funding to tackle the court's backlog of charged felony cases. We've used some of that money to hire 120 new positions, including 10 victim advocates, to ensure a greater number of victims are receiving services. I'm also proud of the work that I've done working with all 4 divisions of our office to ensure that we're right-sizing resources, that we don't have prosecuting attorneys doing paralegal work. Paralegal work is really important, but it's an expensive way to get it done. I'm also really proud that I started the 21-22 budget cycle with a proposed $8 million cut on the table. That is the equivalent of 46 deputy prosecuting attorneys. I caught the county in some math errors. I also pointed out some ways that we have saved money to the system, and I reduced that to the loss of only 3 employees, 2 of which were vacant. And over the last 3 cycles, I've added back 18 staff. So I'm at a net add of 15 positions.
Thank you. This concludes our question and answer session, and thank you to both candidates for being so scrupulously on time. It's wonderful. We will now proceed to the closing statements, and the first closing statement will be by Jim.
All right. Well, I want to say once again, thank you so much for your time and attention and great questions. I really think this is a really pivotal election for this office. There have actually been only 4 prosecutors since 1949. And I really do believe that this office sets the tone in regard to, public safety, in regard to, making sure that we have really a public safety system that operates and meets the expectations of the community. People deserve to be safe and to feel safe. I can tell you that people are very concerned about the status quo. And I think my unique experience, not just as a deputy prosecutor and senior deputy for 16 years at the county prosecutor's office, 3 years at the city of Renton as a city prosecutor before that, but now 9 years leading a city of 100,000 people, 600 employees. Really, actually, the metrics of the mayor's office in Federal Way are very similar to the metrics of the King County Prosecutor's office. So I believe I've got the management experience and also just really the connections and really the broad-based coalition of support I have with the mayors of the 15 cities and labor and business and law enforcement. I really do believe that I've got this unique perspective and a vision on how to really move this office forward in a manner that meets community expectations and brings people together. And I thank you once again for your consideration and for your time tonight.
Thank you. Now, Leesa Manion.
I just want to say thank you so much to Horizon House for hosting tonight's forum, and thank you to our audience members for tuning in and for your thoughtful questions. The residents of King County deserve a prosecutor who shares their values and who is 100% committed to ensuring that all of our communities are safe and supported. A prosecutor who can identify common ground and build strong and collaborative coalitions that gets results. A prosecutor who knows the work of the office and who protects public safety by immediately addressing incidents of crime and root causes. A prosecutor who will challenge the inequities of our current criminal justice system and who actively works to build a fair and transparent justice system that protects public safety, promotes racial equity, and provides opportunity and hope to all parts of King County. I am that prosecutor, and I have the experience and the proven track record to lead our office and our communities forward, to provide peace of mind for hardworking small business owners, to provide a voice and justice for those who suffer harm, violence, and trauma, provide care for people in crisis, and to ensure that all of our communities are safe and supported. If you take a look at me, you will notice that I am not the status quo. I look different than my opponent and every prosecutor who has come before me. I learned a lot from Norm Mailing and Dan Satterberg, two men who shaped two generations of prosecutors. And it's also time to have a prosecutor who has a different perspective and lived experience. Norm believed in my leadership. He was my friend and my mentor. And like Dan, I will carry his legacy forward, and I will modernize it for today's times. With your help, I will be the first woman and the first person of color to hold this seat. And I invite each of you to share this journey with me and the 215 individuals and organizations who share our values of public safety and public service. Together, we can be on the right side of history and continue to bring positive change to King County. I would be honored to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you to both you and to Jim for participating in this forum, but also thank you for being your public service and for being willing to run for office. Our system of government, our democracy depends so much upon candidates, qualified candidates, being willing to run and to serve. It is extremely hard work, and for this, we thank you heartily. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I turn you now over to Sam Sperry.
Well, Ned really said that very well on behalf of our whole Horizon House community. So thank you, candidates, for tonight. We very much value your service, as Ned indicated. I do have one more announcement before we sign off. There are two King County measures on the November 8th ballot. Now, we invited several members of the King County Council to appear tonight to explain why they placed these measures on the ballot. They did not respond. So I'm simply going to mention them here. And if you want more information, it's available on the King County Elections website. The first is Charter Amendment 1 on shifting local elections from odd to even years. The second one is Proposition 1, calling for a $6.25 per $100,000 of assessed value to provide funding for, quote, urban green spaces, natural areas, wildlife and salmon habitat, trails, river corridors, farmlands and forests within King County, close quote. More information is available on the Elections Department website. That is kingcounty.gov/departments, abbreviated to DEPTS/elections. Our forum this evening is the work of many hands. Of course, our moderator, Ned Lang, Peter Shapiro for displaying the question slides, and Jenny Simpson for preparing them. Our always reliable timer, Adele Reynolds, Doris Ray, who chairs our subcommittee for preparing the questions, making contacts, John Clement, and publicity, Roger Lead and Sue Vadman. Finally, of course, our general director, the masterful Risa Ransom. So for my co-chair, Laura Weese, I say thank you all and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Good night,
bet.
everyone. Thank you.
Great job, you guys. Thank you. Bye.